Happy New Year!
Happy
Here
New
we
Year!
are! Yes. I hope that you are ready to get answers to all of your quilting questions. We're going to answer a lot of questions about Secret Agent, which launched last night, and we've already answered hundreds of questions. But we will continue to add to that today with some of the questions that were left on our comment section. I need to get our dog's bed because he's waiting for me. So Bill, you can start.
So it's always fun to usher in the new year with a project like Secret Agent, but we'll talk about lots of those details and other quilting related things today.
So so Ellen's here. Okay, good. At least one person found us. We are going to start with just a brief overview. Because there are a lot of people who are struggling with technology. They can't find their downloads, they're having printing problems, they think they need to log into an account. And could you succinctly tell people that they just need one piece of paper?
So many of you probably have everything straightened out, but if there's any confusion when you signed up if you signed up for Secret Agent, you were emailed a receipt that had a link on it that says, click here to download your operation details.
And it also had an expiration date on it of 60 days.
And when you click that, it automatically downloads the operation details, which is a 3-page PDF, to your device. If you're on your phone, it downloads to your phone. If you're on your laptop, it downloads to your laptop. If you've clicked that, you have the operation details.
And that's all you'll need.
And it's usually going to be stored in a folder called Downloads on your device, although that can vary by device. Now, those operation details near the top of the first page in bold is a URL, which is a web address that you can type into the top bar of any browser. Don't type it into a search engine bar, but the top bar that always says HTTP, www. If you type it there, you will go to HQ, and that's where you'll find everything you need. Videos, missions, everything.
And I've explained, Bill and I have talked a lot about how to explain some of this, the technical aspects, but the easiest way, I think, we have different opinions about this, to understand the way this works is that you've purchased access to a pattern, and you have it's kind of like going to the grocery store and purchasing something, and then the cashier just puts it at the end of the aisle there, for you to pick up, and you have 60 days to pick it up. You don't leave it there. you take it and you put it on your device. And if you don't pick it up in 60 days, it expires. And it's kind of like they won't let you leave your groceries there for 60 days. So it's really important that after you purchase it, that you print it out right away, that you download it. And I know we thought having a longer time frame would make it easier for you, but I think it's actually added to the problem. So we're going to change the way we do downloads moving forward because it seems to still be challenging.
It seems like a lot of you have found things, and it's great that you've navigated. Those of you who have, it's great that, Marilyn, that you say that the information in video mission 1 was so clear. We really strive for that. We want to have both fun and clarity. And so striking the balance between brevity, teaching, clarity, fun it's a different challenge.
So make sure, somebody said, we keep saying, print out your operation details, print it out. And people are saying, well, why? Because I have a bad printer. I don't have access to a printer easily. Already, we haven't even started yet, and we've had multiple people have their devices crash, and then they've lost their PDF, or their devices have been stolen. And
and that makes me worry about other secret agents out there.
Yeah, but I know it seems like a small thing to you to resend PDFs, but when there's more than 1,000 people involved, I haven't checked recently, but there was about 1,250 as of this morning, having just constant emails and repetitive emails, in some cases 6 times, asking to resend links becomes very, very time consuming. So we really need you to manage your technology, and your local library is a fantastic place if you need assistance with that. But please don't ask us to resend links.
Always check your download.
Check to make sure, because we can see that you've downloaded it.
And I think that idea, that comment that on an iPhone that you downloaded and put it in your books, if you know how to do that, that's a great way to do it. If you know how to bookmark links, bookmark HQ. I think, those of you who have more experience with this have great tips to share, and that's helpful.
Okay, so we're going to get through, there's a whole bunch of questions, but we're going to get to things I'm going to get through the ones that we already have, and they may be duplicated. One of the first questions was, if I'm using the transparency, let's back up. The transparency bundle is sold out at Benartex, meaning we cannot restock it until the end of January. Some people still have inventory. Nobody can reorder.
Some people, meaning
right
some
now.
quilt shops.
Some
around
quilt shops
the
or
country.
sites. I know Nancy Zeman had knitshopnzp.com had inventory as of this morning. I know that they had just a couple left. So if you're looking for one, I know there are other online sites that still have a few bundles, but we'll get our inventory, and all the other shops in America and wherever else will get their inventory at the end of January. It's definitely not a problem because there'll be a lot of, I think there was maybe like 250 people we know of are waiting. So don't worry if you don't have fabric now. There's still a lot you can learn.
You'll learn, and these quilt-alongs, as we've explained before, are designed to be started at any time.
And the mystery ends at a specific time, but there are people who yesterday were downloading the New Day quilt-along that we did a year ago.
Yeah.
So then there was another comment about if we're using the same bundle, can we make it unique? And if you watch the Mission 1 video all the way through, you'll see that we say repeatedly, you'll have opportunities along the way to make yours unique, even if we're using the same fabrics.
That's something that we find really important in quilt-alongs, is the opportunity for you to do something unique. So definitely watch that video. It explains it clearly, because we know hundreds of you will be using the transparency bundle, and there are going to be multiple ways to create that uniqueness.
Yes, and we're going to, again, people asking questions about your printer. We can't help you with your printer, and that is something that you can either research or ask, go someplace else to print. I know FedEx has printers, libraries have printers, but we're unable to assist you with helping you with your printers. There was a question about thread. A neutral thread is your best bet when sewing with a multicolored palette like this. So we're going to probably be sewing with like a medium gray, a medium taupe, something like that.
And one of the things that you'll see as you work through the quilt-along, there may be a time where you're making 5 units that happen to be all blues and greens, and you can use blue and green thread. But if you're doing units that have yellow and purple and pink in them, go for something neutral. Honestly, One of the things I've enjoyed about this quilt along is it's been great to use up bobbins. We have so many bobbins with a little bit of green, a little bit of blue, and I don't mind switching the bobbin out. We're frugal, and honestly, I kind of geek out. I love using up bobbins.
Yeah.
It's a very satisfying feeling.
And so. I also feel like I don't like the waste.
No.
So I don't feel like you have to use the same bobbin the whole time.
No.
But you do what works for you.
And I think that's going to be one of the mantras.
That's the mantra.
Throughout this, do what works for you. There are endless online discussions about what thread should I use, what brand should I use, whatever works for you.
Yeah,
everyone's sewing machine is different. Everyone has different preferences. We aren't fabric or we aren't thread snobs at all. Just decent cotton thread is what we use.
And there are some people who are like, but I want your advice because I'm new to quilting.
And that's a different.
And our advice would be to use 100% cotton thread. We use Signature on bigger cones because it works both on our long arm and our domestic machine. But we're always happy to tell you our opinion about something, and the only thing we ask is that it not start an argument.
Yeah.
Because I'm really trying to just keep the focus on the quilting and the event and not people arguing about pressing seams or not, or pre-washing or whatever.
And yeah, exactly. And I think with thread, everything is a trade-off. Some people love lightweight thread because they can fit more on a bobbin and they don't change their bobbin as often. Others don't like that because it's harder to rip out if you've made a mistake. Just experiment.
So Anna Lou asked about, could Bill repost or allow us to see his tutorial on precision piecing when using open seams? I think you'll find that in the Modern Quilt Studio social media pages. You'll see there is a tutorial on pinning, especially with triangles, 1/4 of an inch from the seam. So there's a photo there that will explain exactly how to do that. Let's see. Would you consider making more transparency bundles as a solid bundle? No can do. We actually didn't even get our vacation. Over the holidays, we were working the entire time, dealing with all the emails, and we are up to here with deadlines.
But that's definitely something
we can't make additional.
Right, but after watching the Mission 1 video, if you want to work with solids, there are so many solids on the market that I actually think that's something you could do either by going to a local quilt shop or perhaps even online. Most companies that sell solids have swatch cards.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think with the clarity of how to make your color code in Mission 1, it would be a great exercise to pick those from solids.
But the other thing you can also do is you can print out your color code and take it to a store and match it. Mm-hmm. So the challenge that we have is that these events are just enormously time consuming for us, and it sounds like a small thing to make transparency bundles available, but it's an enormous amount of manpower and labor. So there was a question about placement of colors in the spectrum. So somebody had watched the Mission 1 video and said, if I want to use more of one color than the other color, is there a specific place I should or shouldn't put it in the spectrum? And I think this is where we have to play the mystery card. We're going to be using similar amounts
of everything,
but
what I'm going to back up and say is part of a mystery quilt is you don't know enough to control what goes where. So we designed this quilt to be a wonderful quilt no matter how things are done in the color code with the awareness that everyone's quilt will turn out a little differently. So some people may have more transparency in certain places. Some people may have slightly different structure. You're along for the ride and kind of enjoy. As long as you have those 22 fabrics, it will work. I couldn't even tell you where to put things because your fabrics are going to be different from everyone else's, but it'll work.
So can you grab the color wheel? So I want to just be super clear about this because, so this is when we're walking our dog or having dinner or we're always talking about my plea to Bill is that I think we need to sell the color wheels at this size. And the challenge is shipping them without them getting damaged. So there's
we have
several questions.
We have little color wheels.
Wheels.
Thank you for posting that, Debbie.
Yeah, but maybe I'll grab the little color wheels.
I can get those as you talk.
This is challenging to ship because of just it would just be hard to ship a single one, and most people don't want to buy 10 of them or something. So we don't sell this one, and if we can figure out a way to sell it at some point in the future, we will. We have the little 10 packs of color wheels that are double-sided, and you can use those. And what's nice about them is they're $5, and they're double-sided, but it is definitely smaller than the one that we show. It's just a little harder on video to see the small size, which is why we blew it up. So this is not available for purchase, but the little ones are.
But definitely, that the whole question of where you start with the color code, whether you go kind of Roy G. Biv, where you're starting with the red and going, whoa, I can't see my finger, red and going around that way, or whether you start with green and go that way. The one question was, do you always end with the black or dark gray? And ideally you would. So with our color code, as we showed in that first mission, we started with yellow, went around the color wheel and ended with the black. If you did Roy G. Biv and started with red, I'd also I think putting the black or the dark gray, if you have that at the end, is great. Some people may just be going yellow through green, blue, violet, and that's it. And they may not have any black, but if you do, because it does behave a little differently, I would keep it on the right-hand side.
So we know that there's the color wheel. I keep telling you we gotta do this. We can't include it. The calendar is a license. So the way things work is that we license images and patterns and designs to other people. We don't tell them what to put in the calendar. We don't control what they put in the calendar.
Well,
it's not.
Well, we do. We provide all the images and the patterns, but but
we don't price it. She's saying like include it in the cost of a calendar.
And that it's an interesting idea, but I think what Weeks is saying is that's not how the calendar company would operate.
Right.
And they have a price point to hit,
right.
And so they're just licensing our images and patterns.
Yeah,
so
we don't have.
It's a creative idea. I totally. I'm on board with
that
idea if we could. We just don't, it's not our calendar to produce.
Yeah. So then, let's see, there was some other questions back here. How we sewed our color code. So, Bill held it up. So this is not how we told you to do it. What we told you to do is to write in the top 1/4 inch in basically what would be your seam allowance. We know that we're, presumably, you're not doing video tutorials.
We needed to be able to hold it up.
Right, and also for you to see it more easily.
So I just pinned it to this stiff paper.
Which you could also do.
Yeah.
But we would encourage you not to write in the middle of it because you might want to use it later.
Unless you're doing it with chalk that can wipe off or something. But,
I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's too hard to see. Yeah.
The main thing is figure out a way where you can clearly see it and refer to it as you sew, because if the pattern calls for 4 pieces of 3N, you want to be able to look and double check to make sure your 3N is the same, because there is no question, no one has ever done a pattern like this before.
But I think the question that some people are asking is, some people have said, what did you sew it to? And it's not sewn to anything. Can you like unpin it for a second? It's just pieced. It's just like a big block, a long, narrow block. So it's you can see. Look how pretty.
Oh, you like our
our seam allowances are.
And again, we press our seams open. You don't have to.
You don't have to.
You do what works for you.
Yeah.
But it is all sewn together, and
it's just a unit, a sewn unit.
Yep.
So for the people who ask, like, can I sew my Spectrum Roy G. Biv? Yes, in the video we talk about that and show you lots of examples of different ways that you can organize this. The only thing that's really critical is that once you commit, you need to be consistent in how you use those fabrics.
Yes.
And because we've painstakingly planned out the quilt, so you use, you don't want 2 reds, the same fabric, to be next to another fabric.
Yeah.
And so you really gotta stick to your color code once you make it.
Yeah.
And then the only advice we have is to put the darkest fabric in your palette on the right. But otherwise, the rest of it, any way you want to organize it, as long as it follows the spectrum.
Clockwise or counterclockwise,
yes, either
doesn't
direction.
matter.
You just don't want to sew orange and then blue and then yellow and then purple, and you don't want to do that. So, Kathy, I'm glad you enjoy not having control. Yeah, that will serve you very well in this quilt along.
Yeah.
Because the people that struggle the most, I think, are the ones who really just want to take the wheel, and that becomes a challenge. They get frustrated. So, pinning labels to the strip that's totally
Absolutely
fine. That will totally work.
I would just say, don't put tape on it that's going to fall off. Pins are good, but
and if you replace the black gray on the Spectrum, is there room for another selection? You don't want it to be something that you've already used,
unless it's
much darker.
You can have 2 different reds that are substantially different reds, or if you watch the Mission 1 video and we show the example of the prints that we pulled from our stash, you'll see there are multiple greens or a couple blues that, as long as there's variation, you're fine. So I'd suggest you look at the Mission 1 video if you haven't for that.
Yeah, and Chris, as you might overcut the pieces due to the blade.
It's pretty well laid out. If you're overcutting a little bit, you should be fine because of the way it's all set up.
Right. But don't
be reckless.
No, don't do the thing that I see. I'd say 50% of every class I've taught in person, people have said, "Oh, I just need the finished size because I want to cut it bigger. I don't want to worry about my seam allowances. I want to cut it down later." We really encourage you to not do that, because at that point you will run out of fabric. If you're talking about 30 seconds of an inch from
or even a quarter
blade,
of an inch. Yeah.
But my recommendation would be just change your blade.
I understand that often when you're cutting, you're going to roll past the end of what you need to cut.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. So in our layout, we're thinking about that. The goal here is always for people to be successful. Some of these fat quarters you'll use about half of, some you'll use 85% of. There are a few that I know will be used more, so the layout is really thoughtfully approached to avoid problems. So I can understand the apprehension, and I would be nervous too, which is why we're careful in our design. We're really try to be
and we also
thoughtful.
don't want, we're really aware of money, and of that some of you have large stashes. And in our summer camp, Quiltalong, somebody posted a picture of like a little juice cup that had, all of her leftover fabric in, and it all fit into a little juice cup. And that to me was ideal, because we don't want you to feel like we don't want to waste your money. We don't want to waste your fabric. And so,
but we don't want you white knuckling it either.
No,
so
we're trying to
I will say,
that.
I don't know, the person who had that little, that was a little unusual.
But she may have had a miscut, or she may have made it bigger.
Because we don't have it usually that tight, but just I'll reiterate that do your best. We're really thinking through, you're doing one mission at a time. We have 6 missions planned in advance to think that through.
So if you, Diane is asking about fabrics with white in it, we cover that specifically in the video. So please, please refer to the video for that. The question about, let's just deal with all the big common questions. Pre-washing, we pre-wash. If you don't want to, don't. We have not had any bleeding. We didn't have raveling. We have a video on how we do it on our YouTube channel. Please look at that. If you don't want to, that's fine. Let's just please not argue about it. Ditto with seam allowances. There was another question about seam allowances. If you like to do it to the side, do it to the side. You like it open, do it open. And we just ask that you respect that this is a personal choice, and not feel the need to try to convert other people to your way of doing things, because that is not in the spirit of our desire to be inclusive and just let everybody do what works for them. If you want advice, we'll give you advice, but I just get tired of people arguing and don't want to moderate it.
So the one thing I'll say to keep in mind is you're making, and we mentioned this briefly in the video, but you're making a bunch of units. Eventually they're going to go together. And having seams match is an important part of transparency quilts. To have that optical illusion, you do want points to match pretty closely. So as you press, just keep that in mind, that later on you'll want to have some accuracy. And I want to quickly, I just looked up and I want to wish Kathy an early happy birthday. Congratulations next week. And, it's really nice that this is kind of a way to let go of something for you. It's so wonderful.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that we've really appreciated hearing the positive comments about the video, and hope that we gave you a couple of weeks between the first and second missions, because we realized that some of you who we saw were posting palettes early
without having
seen the video will have time to edit them, because those relationships, this isn't...
until you had the understanding, you couldn't really do the palette.
And I think that this is one of the things that's difficult, is that this is a very precise technique in terms of color, and if you want that visual illusion, it's not us trying to force people, try to control things. We're just telling you what's going to work and what's not going to work.
And although, the term precise, there's wiggle room in this. I'm a little apprehensive of using the word precise because I think people might get anxious that they can't get it right. But I think the video explains, and you can see in the sample palettes we created, that there is a little wiggle room. It's all about having relationships that are similar across the whole palette. And I love the comment of where it's already lost there. Oh, okay, from Patricia, that you already have the bundle, but you're going to try to assemble a palette of your own as well to learn from. Great way to do it.
Yeah. Again, with the seam allowances, do whatever you want, whatever works for you. You can, we'll say it in every video, do what works for you. We're not, nobody will be inspecting your seams, yeah. I promise. Okay. If you have a great stash of solids, this is a wonderful way to use them. But you definitely just want to make sure that the relationships are incrementally consistent along each side of the value spectrum. Let's see. Yes, this is, those of you, I'm seeing Donna's comment about you're not at summer camp anymore. This is a technique that people have requested. This is our most frequently requested technique. And the challenge with it is that it's a little bit harder, and it's not an easygoing technique. And if you want to do a great job at it, you definitely have to focus a little bit more than you did at summer camp, which was all easy breezy.
Plus, also, Secret Agents World Peace is at stake. But we want you still to have the fun of summer camp, but take a little. There is a little more precision involved.
So Jenny says she's not confident with color, but she's learned a lot over the years. I'm really glad to hear that, and I think you'll learn. If you haven't seen the video yet, I hope you'll learn more in the video, because we really tried to give you a lot of examples of what's going to work, what's not going to work, and why. So for this particular technique, and I hope that it will be demystified, because it's when you say it's not that precise, I'm thinking about the people who have come with large scale prints and that kind of thing, that it really is not going to work for that. So I'm really glad that for those of you who've seen the Mission 1 video, feel confident that you're going to be able to figure out your color work. But there'll be a lot. You are welcome to share your color codes on
I can't wait to see
Modern Quilt Studio Patterns and Fabrics page. I know a lot of you love to assemble like a vignette of what you've sewn with the pattern next to it, and we just ask that you not do that.
Make sure the pattern is not in anything you post. But definitely, I think your color codes, not only do we want to see them, all the other agents will love to see them, and they're really photogenic.
They really are.
And I think the color code, as we say in Mission 1 in the video and in the pattern, it's the key to everything. So once you have that, it'll be a lot of following instructions. And I also want to reiterate that you won't necessarily see transparency in everything you do. Some of that comes later and is revealed later. So
but you should be able to see it in Mission 1.
But
that's a good test to whether you're on the right track.
In the Alpha. In the Bravo, you don't see it at all.
That's right. The other thing, I always hate to bring this up, but please don't share links within social media. We're already seeing people who have not purchased the pattern emailing, requesting that we resend links, or asking on social media for other people to share links. We've worked really hard on this pattern, and would appreciate it if you would not share on social media links for anybody who asks. Just ignore them or report them, and we'll take care of them.
And Gina has the interesting question. Can you tell us the code of the fat quarter that will come closest to being used up? That's a really interesting question, and I let me think about that.
I think that
I'm not going to answer. I'll just say. Yeah.
It's a mystery quilt.
Right, but
and if you have a fat quarter, you'll be good.
And Kathy, you're asking if question whether the AccuQuilt die for local color, which is a transparency quilt we designed, and we designed a die for AccuQuilt, whether it's still available. AccuQuilt has retired a lot of their dies, including the local color die. So it's wonderful for transparencies. It's basically overlapping circles. It kind of looks like a series of Venn diagrams. And it still shows up on eBay. Either, that's where I would look. Either put a search alert on eBay or just check for AccuQuilt local color, because it's no longer sold, much to my frustration, because we have requests for it all the time, but AccuQuilt has retired that die.
There was a question about half yards versus quarter yard cuts versus fat quarters. Debbie is recommending, if she were doing it, she'd buy half yard cuts because she's risk averse. I think this is, everybody's got a different financial situation, and I think it's, we're trying to be respectful and trying to give you the minimum amount that you need. If you are purchasing either our line or other fabrics, a fat quarter is the minimum you need. A quarter yard cut will not work.
No, fat quarters.
So it needs to be a fat quarter. So you need 22 fat quarters, but it's not just 22 fat quarters. They need to have the relationship that we explain in the first video. So,
but if you want to get half yard cuts, then you'll have lots to work with.
Somebody asked, "Can I get quarter yard cuts?"
Right.
And that won't work.
Not quarter yards. It has to be fat quarters.
But there was another question. Yeah, Lisa says she's not sure if she likes the rainbow of colors. You can do this with analogous colors. The thing that you can't do, and you could do it, if you could get all those shades of gray, you could even do that. The thing that you really need, though, is for this relationship, dark colors that are similar, incremental change between them, and lighter ones that are also similar, incremental.
It doesn't have to be a full rainbow. Don't worry about that.
You could do them. We show in the Mission 1 tutorial a blue, green, purple.
That's more limited. It doesn't go all the way around the color wheel. But there are lots of... the structure of the quilt is such that if your color code has the clear bands with similar relationships, you'll have a beautiful quilt.
Yes. So let's see. There was another question. Oh, about using permanent markers on the color code. If you're in the quarter inch, go ahead.
Yeah, if you can write in the seam allowance, that's fine. I like having it pinned to this just because it's super easy for me to see. But again, do what works for you. It's nice to keep any writing in that quarter inch in case you do want to use it later.
So, Maria Kozo.
Oh, Maria!
What?
Hi!
Maria Kozo was she on our first date? I think she was.
I think we met Maria when we first met.
Yes, Maria Kozo was on our first date, yes.
Okay, Maria, it's an honor to have such a great colorist here.
Maria was a footwear designer for Nike and has always been a color expert.
And just a great colorist.
It's so exciting that she signed up for this. So people asking, is it too late? Oh, and she says, yes, I think she was on our first date. Yes. It's Deborah, it is not too late to join the mystery. People will be joining for next year, the same time. We're sold out of bundles, and Benartex is sold out of bundles. There are online quilt shops. We know that Nancy Zeman shop, nzp.com, has a few left, not a ton, I know.
The resupply will be at the end of the month.
We'll have more at the end of the month. And there was a comment earlier about I'm going to stay on time and I'm going to keep up. And we're really trying to create an environment where people don't feel rushed and they can enjoy the process. And even though we will have installments available according to the schedule, we really don't want you to feel like you have to keep up. There are going to be things that come up. People get sick, people have surgery, people have responsibilities. And if we could change this idea of keeping up and falling behind, and just everybody's going to be working at your own pace, I think it'll take a lot of stress off of everybody. And
just enjoy it.
Yes. And
we're the only ones who have to keep up.
The one thing I will ask is that people not put links to other businesses on our Facebook page. That's just,
we appreciate you trying to help other people, but we just have to.
Yeah. We have we had a marketing sort of agreement with Nancy Zeman. They promoted our bundles, and so we're sharing that they're there. But please understand that we're all in business and trying to support our families. So
and the question about template plastic, there will be I think there's just one mission where there will be templates. You could use template plastic or cardstock. It's either one will work. There aren't a ton of templates, but there are in one or two missions. I should remember.
Just a small number.
Yeah.
So let's see, and I think we covered everything. I guess there are a couple of other things that we do need to talk about. We are pausing new teaching requests for the next few months. Anything that we've already committed to for 2024, we will of course be teaching those events. However, we're not taking new contracts for teaching because we're going to refresh and rethink and redesign our course offerings starting for 2025.
Yeah.
So we've had to decline a lot of teaching, but
we appreciate all the requests. We're just trying to keep a balance.
One thing at a time. Not one thing at a time. There's like 10 things at a time.
When have we done one thing at a time?
I know. We actually just are in the process of finishing the 2025 calendar. So.
And since we last spoke with you, we've designed new fabric lines. Yeah, we've got a lot going on.
If you're interested in having us work with your guild, we'll post on our newsletter and social media when we're going to start accepting new teaching contracts, but they wouldn't be starting but for 2025, and we can't even think about committing to them yet because we're going to change what we offer. So if you can just stand by. We'll let you know. So I think, did we cover everything?
With the quilt.
Is there quiltalong, non-quiltalong? Is everybody taken care of? Everybody's got their technology. The black, we would suggest that you put the black on the end.
Yes, as
if you're using
11
black
11 north and 11 south.
Exactly. The reason for that will become apparent as you sew. So, pocket litter. Hashtag pocket litter. We want to make pocket litter a new trend for 2024.
Yeah. Although I was really feeling, as I
Yes.
was doing laundry yesterday, I always have too much pocket litter.
As long as you put it there and somebody didn't plant
exactly.
it on you.
No, I don't think someone was planting Trader Joe's recently.
Yes, exactly. But there's a whole lore about pocket litter, and I hope you will have as much fun with it as we did planting it, because
it's fun.
It's a whole other level of silliness with that pocket litter.
And
but
I hope people have been enjoying the Spotify mix.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, we will be monitoring emails, deep breath, and social media for any additional questions that come up from people who didn't make it. But this video will also be available later on our YouTube channel if you came to it late.
So, and I was going to say, I see Gino is mentioning tips for choosing a secret agent name. Now, this is where I will be embarrassed and say, we haven't chosen our own yet, and we have to do that.
So I forgot, Louise did ask a question about mixing solids and prints.
Right.
We would not recommend it, just because you're trying to create an illusion, and that difference will call attention to itself, and I would not do it.
I would stick with one or the other. I will say, if you mix them, you will still have an interesting quilt, but it will. Interesting isn't always what you want. I keep them separate.
Trouble locating the Facebook page to share info. If you look for Modern Quilt Studio Patterns and Fabrics, that is the group where you'll be able to share your progress and see the progress of others.
So it's a group that you're searching for.
Yes. And when do you think you'll have kits for Jewel Box?
I may...
This month.
Certainly this month. We're going to have kits for 2 additional transparency quilts coming out this month.
Yeah.
But
God willing.
I was just checking. I still only have 2 hands.
I know.
But we're
I'm gonna wear out that call map.
And I really want to get those out because it's beautiful.
It really is. It really is.
The Jewel Box quilt is really beautiful with these.
So there was one other question about Karen Ryan, if you don't know what pocket litter is, you haven't downloaded the pattern or watched the video yet. So that's top secret. Patricia, it's not about perfection. This quilt along and the color work isn't about perfection, but it is about consistency in a way that's a little less flexible than a lot of other quilts. So
definitely not perfection.
Perfection is a word it's kind of a toxic word.
Well, it also doesn't fit with our whole approach to quilting.
But there are some techniques, sewing techniques, like, there are some sewing techniques that are more flexible. There are some color strategies that are more flexible. This is on the less flexible end of that spectrum. But people have said that they wanted to learn it, and I, it's one of those, like, are you sure? Because it's not an easygoing, loose and easy, anything goes kind of approach.
But once again, once you have your color code set out, you're not going to have to think hard about color with the future missions. You'll be following instructions from your spy masters.
But you definitely want to put the time in. If you're not using the transparency bundle, you want to put your time into making sure that your color code is consistent.
Yeah. And I think this actually brings up something in general. Weeks and I, as designers, often spend as much time selecting the fabrics as we do making a quilt. So
much time.
Yes. And it's not that we're after perfection. It's that, and you can't always know if you quote unquote get it right but we want to be very thoughtful in our selection of fabrics so that we can see what happens and we learn from it.
And that we want, we're excellence and perfection are kind of different things. Like to me, perfection becomes, there's like a toxicity to perfectionism, whereas excellence is we want to do the best job we're able to do with our skills. And that's what we encourage, is that people just focus on doing their best and not worrying about comparing themselves to other people.
We want to evolve. We want to keep pushing ourselves in different ways.
Yeah.
So and I have to,
yes.
The earlier comment that, who was it saying they were looking at the city they wanted to retire to? I absolutely loved, okay.
But then that would require that you know where you're going to do that.
And okay, I've already lost it, but that you found your secret agent address that way. That is a great idea.
So there was another question about whether we are going to be having an open studio this year.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we're kind of, for now, at least until we're done with this event, we will not be. At some point, we probably will be.
Spring.
Maybe spring or summer.
Not a promise, but that's
yeah, it's every day is a new mystery for us. So no plaids for you this time, Dina. Man, you rocked those plaids at summer camp. And Dina, take my hat off to you.
You did such a good job with the plaids that we had to stop for a moment and say, like, could you pull this quilt off with plaids?
Yeah, you were like, we don't want to challenge Dina.
but what we said, Dina, because we were talking about you, that because you did such a great job with the last one, that I think you could do plaids if it weren't a mystery quilt. I think it'd be extremely hard to pull off as a mystery quilt. But then again, I would have thought that way with the last one, and you did it.
I don't know. Yeah, Vicky, Dina is the plaid camper, yes. And I will say, Dina, you had a pretty impressive collection of plaids. That was, if you had 22, I think you could do it.
If they weren't too high contrast. I think the biggest
challenge.
She had small
scale.
Right. The biggest challenge with a lot of plaids is they tend to have contrast in the warp and weft just so you can actually see the plaid. And if there's too much contrast, then it can be hard to fit in a specific value. But Dina,
Yeah, I think, Dina, if you had 22 plaids that you could arrange in a spectrum this way with these value differences, and they were small scale, because you had some really teeny tiny plaids. I think it's possible. What we said was, and I think I'd still stand by this, which was, it's going to be a much bigger challenge than doing it the way we recommended with the solids or with the tone on tones. And it's kind of like, I'm not a video gamer, but what is it, like championship level? Color work, level up. You were like way high level with color.
And it's always the issue with a quilt along is we want people to be successful, so we're avoiding outliers often.
Yes.
And so the mystery for you is what the quilt will look like. The mystery for us is what your quilts will look like.
Right.
And
if we can just nudge you in the right direction. So, what Bill said in the tutorial, the first mission video, is everybody is going to, regardless of the palette you use, or even if you use our fabrics in a different organization, every quilt will have varying levels of transparency. So that's what's going to be fun, is that some will have more and some will have less.
And again, we're talking in generalities here because we can't say too much. And it's also hard because many of you have joined the Quilt Along because there's something about our work that you've seen in the past or our patterns that you've enjoyed. And yet we have to say, you haven't seen a quilt like this, so you don't know what's coming.
And the last ones are different from this one. If you've downloaded the pattern, you've already seen it's very different.
Yeah.
So There are a couple of comments on perfectionism, and I will reiterate what I've said before, was that if I could wave a magic wand over the quilting community and remove the desire for perfectionism and the worship of perfectionism, I would, because I think it discourages people from trying new things. It makes people, get in their head in a way that doesn't help them grow. And part of the reason that we don't have fixed ways you have to do things on in our page is that we really want to encourage people to relax and to embrace their own work and celebrate their own work and not compare it to other people's. But I know, because of the competitive nature of some parts of quilting, that people see certain quilts and shows and they compare themselves, and it's just not helpful. It should be inspiring, not a source of criticism.
Right.
So I think if we can all let go of perfectionism in the new year and just strive for our personal best, that's going to be the ticket.
Our goal is to have a wonderful 2024.
Absolutely.
And spend this first part of it with you all. We really, really appreciate your enthusiasm, your the humor and the creativity that go along. You keep us going. This is hard work. We love it.
If you haven't seen Nancy Zamor's rewrite of the secret agent plan lyrics on the Facebook group, that's a hoot. So give that a look. So, Ann Jansen's finally coming in from Sweden. And it'll be on this will be on YouTube later in the day,
but also on Facebook. So
yes, perfectionism is the enemy of joy. Totally agree.
Thank you all. Happy New Year, and
we're gonna have fun.
We've got some sewing to do.
We do, and some filming. So enjoy the process.
Yep.
You got a couple of weeks before the next mission. Have fun.
Have fun.
Yeah, and be nice to each other. I know you will be.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Happy New Year.